Welcome to the WSO Weekly Wrap-Up, where I talk with my team about the 5 most trending discussions in the Wall Street Oasis community. Enjoy. All right, everybody, welcome to a much overdue weekly wrap-up pod. I'm here with Nabil today. Matt's too busy doing interviews for WSO Academy to have time to hop on here, but we wanted to just take a second to kind of go over some of the trending topics in the forums because there's some really fun ones. The first one is investment banking rankings by placement per headhunters, actual data. And the placements for this were meant by private equity, so mega fund and upper middle market private equity funds. So Nabil, you want to give some of those stats that the OP dropped in the forums?
Yeah, it seems like just under 50% of them were accepted from MS, Evercore, and Goldman. And then the biggest groups at Morgan Stanley is Tech, FIG at GS, and Restructuring PJT. Again, the aggregate looks like 16%, which is interesting. Class of 2025, week 1 acceptance. Yeah, 18% for Morgan Stanley, Evercore looks 16. Actually, all of them have gone up, right? So 18 for Morgan compared to 11 for previous year, and then Evercore 16 this year versus 12 from last year. Goldman Sachs 11 this year, 5% last year. What do you think?
So what do you think? It's like the concentration. It's like the PE firms in the upper middle markets and mega funds. It sounds like they're maybe becoming less they're more risk averse because they're hiring much earlier. They're just going to the name brands more.
Right.
Because recruiting is kicking off so damn early. It's just insane. So yeah, so we're seeing this trend. Morgan Stanley, Evercore, and Goldman went from like an aggregate of the total share for mega fund and upper middle market recruiting of around, call it 20 or 30-ish%, all the way up to like almost 50%, right?
50, yeah.
But it's a huge jump from those 3 firms, which are historically placed really well. But 50% at 3 firms is pretty insane.
Yeah, that's just concentrated.
Yeah, and then still some strong showings. We have Lazard around 8%, JPM at 8%, Moelis 7%, PJT 6%, BAML at 3%. Little drop off there, BAML 3%. And that's just the 7-day period marked by the start of on-cycle recruiting. But so kind of interesting stats there. Wanted to cover it. Give us your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about that? Why do you think that's happening? I think it's how early things are going. But yeah, let's jump to the next one. There's kind of a funny post on the job search. I don't know if this is real or not, but it was the title was by far the best response to a boutique cold email I've gotten. And this was specifically a response to somebody sending a cold email. I think it was a VP or something, wrote back and said, "Dear Mr. Blank, I would never consider for an interim position at my firm a college junior who addresses me by my first name in an introductory email. Best of luck on your job search. Sincerely, Blank." So, Nabil, what's your opinion on this?
Man. Dodge the bullet. Dodge the bullet.
What do you mean? Don't dodge the bullet. It said like, don't go work for him. Meaning it's
yeah. I mean, it's just like, why would you want? It just shows a lot about like the culture, right? If you're gonna work with the person, like, man, that's just a big red flag.
Yeah, I think one of the funniest comments somebody said is that email back from the VP is a no deal flow energy. So somebody who's very angry and not having a big bonus.
Yeah.
And then we had another funny person write back saying they should write this back. Obviously a joke. You shouldn't respond to that. But they say, "Hey, first name. Thanks for getting back to me and saving me the trouble of applying and having to ask about culture. I think your email summed this up for me and everything I would need to know. I wish whoever your firm hires the most luck in the world, as you're clearly going to make them need it." And some people are responding, "You have to send this. You have to send this." I don't even know if this is real. I think you obviously leave it.
Yeah, most likely troll post, but still good food for thought.
Yeah, I think if you in terms of honest advice for this type of stuff, if you're emailing like an MD and you're like a freshman, maybe you use Mr. there. But otherwise, like if you're close to graduate, then internship, they're analysts, associates, or they're very upperclassmen, obviously you use first name, I think, in almost all these cases. So, yeah, you don't necessarily want to sound so overly formal, especially for junior bankers. Last topic, real quick, this is going to be a fast one. Gen Z equals IB and private equity less competitive. So this was a question someone was posting is, because that Generation Z values work-life balance more, does this mean for the people who are willing to grind more, it's less competitive? What are your thoughts? And they were saying over the next 3 to 4 years, as more kind of
you go to tech.
Yeah, more people go to tech, more people go to this. Any thoughts on that?
Honestly, I mean, how are you looking at it? Like, are you? It depends, right? Are people who like? Do you have to be really smart in IBP, or you just need to grind? Like, sure, like there's always gonna be people who are gonna come in, and I don't think it's gonna be less competitive. Just look at the applications every year for like one of these big banks. Like, it's definitely not less competitive, but maybe the quality. You could argue that the quality could go down, right?
Yeah.
Just because of the people going out to tech or whatever.
Yeah,
that's my thoughts.
There was a VP banking. Yeah, there's a VP in investment banking that had a good comment talking about it's really a decline in the quality of the hiring process. And what they said, it was like, when they started in IB in 2014, they say at an American bank, the CV screening was done by like campus recruiting teams. And so they get an allocation of students that went to their specific university. So it was much easier to know like which clubs were the hardest. They could back check on professors and even some of the mentors. And, it was much easier just to know who was the top students that really were serious about banking. And he said, those days are sadly gone in exchange for random hire views that I don't even think I would be able to personally pass. And so I thought that was interesting. It's true. I think there's been such a drive towards streamlining and try to make things more efficient, forcing everyone to go through a hire view before even a first round phone screen, that it becomes a little more impersonal. It becomes a little bit more like a random luck process rather than screening. Although I'd always argue, even back then when there was people looking at the resumes, they still only give it about 10 seconds.
Yeah. But then, like, don't you think that the whole process of like having these high views and all are just because of the amount of applications they get? Like,
they could
just a response
screen more. They could screen more theoretically.
Yeah, exactly. So you could argue the other side is that, it gives everyone a better chance, like, rather than a selective at certain schools, like more people.
And I think you've seen that in the analyst classes. There's definitely been a wider diversity of schools that are getting roles, that are getting analyst roles. You see a lot more state school kids, kids from non-target schools breaking in that have, learned how to network properly. But yeah, the hire views is interesting. It's something where it's become so prevalent that we actually are looking into potentially integrating it into the academy to help kids see what their automated algo score is prior to actually doing a real hire view, doing practice hire views, so that they're able to see kind of where they rank. Interestingly, obviously the recruiter can go in and watch the videos, but what's interesting about the hire views is they can actually, they score you automatically based on just what you say. So even if your pace, even if you're like going like this, waving your hands, or, wearing a crazy clown wig, it could score you as the top candidate.
But that just a warning. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
You could go back and see the recording and then they will wait a minute.
Yeah. So they probably use it as a way to just to throw out a lot of the lower ones. And then they'll use it as a way to kind of filter through the thousands and thousands of applications. So what you say matters. So if they're asking about teamwork, you want to be saying we, you don't want to be saying I a lot. Things like that is typically how these things are being scored, but they call it, what do they call it? Natural language processing. Yeah. So they use all these fancy words. It's basically just taking what you're saying, putting it into text form, and then grading it based on some sort of criteria, based on that specific question and what they want to see from it.
Do you have tips for people on how to get through these interviews?
Slow down, because pacing doesn't matter. It's just literally the words that are coming out. That's the automatic algo. So slowing down and just trying to be clear in what you say, so that the automated script or transcript that's being generated, it actually understands you properly. So you say mergers and acquisitions really fast, maybe it like butchers it, and then your grade is lower, and then automated algo. So I would slow down, I think, and make sure you're extremely clear in your spoken word.
Right. Any thoughts on how to practice for it?
Videos. record yourself. It's super awkward, but the first time you watch yourself and hear yourself, it's kind of an eye opener. So yeah, just get on Zoom if you don't have a higher view. Obviously join Academy if you can. WSO Academy, you can check it out at wallstreetoasis.com/academy. But either way, if you don't have access to that or you don't get in, you can go onto a Zoom, record yourself and watch it back as a way to just kind of hear your answers, hear how they're transcribed. You could even use an automated transcriber to see kind of what's actually coming out from there to get a sense of how you'd be graded. Obviously, there's no automated graders here. I think that's kind of their secret sauce, so they're not going to give that away, or HireU's not going to give that away. But yeah, any other questions or things I should hit on?
No, I think that's good.
All right, guys. Well, hopefully we'll come back more often and be able to do these pods more frequently.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about how Academy is going?
Yeah. It's busy.
We've had some people placed, right?
Yeah, a lot of people placed recently. We are obviously heading into the main recruiting season for sophomores. It's November 2nd today. So the sophomores joining right now are a little bit late. So they're going to be forced to kind of sprint through Thanksgiving break, holiday break, to be ready by January. RBC's already open their internship applications for summer 2025. So this is November 2nd, 2023. So that's how crazy things have gotten. But that's in the US. And Canada, they still haven't opened. Singapore, Hong Kong is still interviewing for summer, junior summers, or just wrapping up. And so we've had some placements in Hong Kong there for Morgan Stanley, some top bulge brackets, but also some great, some freshmen getting some amazing internships at like hedge funds and whatnot, to help brand them for future years. But in terms of timing, on-cycle recruiting for summer 2025 is closer than you think. We're talking a few months away before most of the elite boutiques, bulge brackets kick off, even some of the middle markets. So if you are a sophomore watching this, even if you're at a non-target, like get in now. Get in now, because the amount of work, you need at least 2 months really to kind of be in a good spot. Now, of course, I feel bad for the sophomores that are going to be joining us in January, February, because it's going to be fast and furious, and it's going to be less of an activity, a structured activity of developing your 7 stories, developing your YIB, your tell me about yourself, and it's going to be scrambling for like mock interviews with specific mentors from our deep roster, depending on what firms you get matched up with. So it's going to be much more like a scramble as we kind of get into January through March. But for right now, if you can get in now, it's going to just make your life a lot easier coming in the new year in January 2024. So check it out, wallstreetoasis.com/academy to get on the wait list. We're opening up the wait list every kind of few months, but only for a week at a time, because we get a flood of applications and we got to get through all the interviews. So that also can lead to a delay. So make sure you get on there as soon as possible if you haven't already. And then if there's any questions in the comments, fire away.
And thanks to you, my listeners at Wall Street Oasis. If you have any suggestions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to send them my way, patrick@wallstreetoasis.com. Until next time.